Thanks for joining me today, Megan.
Nice to see you.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
So today we're just emphasizing on my new episode series about survival of the modern world, which is just to help people gain a different perspective, see what other people are doing, and try to see if any of this would suit their lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So why don't you just tell our viewers what you'd like to talk about today?
Well, one of the things that I find really fascinating is gardening. And what I've noticed is, I guess, after everyone was locked down for a couple of years, that, they suddenly realized that, boy, there's a whole world out there.
Yeah.
Either in their neighborhood or in their own yard or on their balcony or wherever.
Yeah.
And so there seems to be quite an interest again in gardens, and I find them fascinating.
Yeah, they are actually very fascinating. Yeah. So how did you discover gardening? How did this come into your life?
Well, I think I'm one of those fortunate people that was raised by a family of gardening people. My grandparents had a farm,
Mm-hmm.
and my grandmother loved flower gardens, but she also had the very practical vegetable garden.
Right.
And went to market with her vegetables. So my sister and I, spending many summers there as small children, would help in the garden and play in the garden and, help pick peas and eat peas. And and I always used to love driving up Gran's driveway because she had this long driveway and it was full of peonies in the spring, and it was just so beautiful.
Beautiful.
Anyway, it was, they capture your imagination as a child, and also that you could be eating things right there that you grew was a pretty great thing. And my other grandmother too had what I would almost call it like a secret garden.
Nice.
She had a very shady old little house, and the back garden was shady like our back garden is here. But there was a gate at the back that crossed a laneway into my aunt's house on the other side of the lane. So it was one of those places you love to go.
Just like the book.
Yeah. And it was filled with violets and lily of the valley and beautiful things like that. Yeah.
So gardening has always been part of your life.
Yeah.
So how did you bring this into your adult life and forward?
Well, I guess it's always given me an outlet for, I like to be busy. I like to be doing things with my hands.
Yeah.
I like to be physically active. So a garden gives you all those things. And it also, it's like a blank canvas. You can do whatever you want, grow whatever you want, depending on what the conditions are, shade or, gravelly soil or clay or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, or sun always helps.
So it's kind of your own experiment of trying to
all the time.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So what purpose does it serve you in your life right now?
Well, now, I'm now a retired person, hence, and having been through a very serious life crisis with my husband last summer, it's given me a place to just be. It's like a sanctuary.
Yeah.
You can just go and putter or just sit and enjoy it, and the more you do, the more you see.
Right.
So now this garden is a newer house for us. It's an old house, but a newer house for us. And the garden was completely overgrown and neglected. So, you just start. Take out what you don't want and put in what you do want.
Yeah. So. And how did you, I guess, tackle what was already existing and then introduce some new stuff?
Well, there are some plants I really don't like.
Yeah.
So, and that's just personal taste, which is also the great thing about a garden. Everybody has their own taste.
Right.
And they have their own purposes. Some people don't really want a garden and just want something that's going to just fill in all and cover all the weeds, and I can just look at it every day and go, oh, that looks really nice.
Yeah. Or
there are those people like us who wanted to be heavily involved in it and shape it and make it our place. So I think that you have your lots of reasons for why you want to do something, but we ended up taking out a lot of overgrown shrubs and bushes that I didn't particularly like anyway, and a lot of things that were I guess shade plants that I also didn't particularly find any pleasure in having in the garden. So once those were out, it left lots of spaces to
Yeah.
fill in with the stuff you do like.
And you also, I noticed, took away a lot of the dead tree branches and did a little manicuring to the overall.
You had to sort of lift the canopy a bit, especially in the back where it's so shaded.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nothing will grow.
Yeah.
So, and actually, it's fascinating to watch. You know, plants are amazing because we did trim this beautiful, beautiful tree and tried to lift the canopy of it, and that worked for 1 year. But I see now it needs to be trimmed out again because it's now, you know, coming over top of us like this.
Yeah. So it's a constant work in progress.
Yeah.
Nice.
Always at work.
Yeah, which is good if you want to be interactive with the plants and maintain them and such. Yeah. So how does this concept of gardening, or how you garden, affect your stress level?
Well, it greatly reduces my stress level. And I am I'm not a perfectionist as such. I'm just, I'm a highly active person.
Yeah.
And I get very, not depressed. I don't think I could ever say really I'm a depressed person, but I do get discouraged sometimes.
Yeah.
And I find that if I can go out and work in the garden or do something that's, I don't know, an opportunity to just be physically moving.
Yeah.
And then walking the neighborhood. I'm also love to walk. So walking the neighborhood, you just see some of the most magnificent gardens and things that I would, don't even know yet about.
Yeah.
And so you go home and you Google it or look it up in your plant book or talk to people and ask what it is. And so, just it leads you forward all the time. You get to move along.
Yeah. It's kind of you're learning with everything that you see.
Yeah. And every time you do something, and if you're an observant person and you're interested, you see, oh, well, that had an effect on that. So now I'm going to have to change something else.
And actually, tell me about your experience with the community and your gardening as a whole.
Well, we've had, this is our third summer here. And last summer was kind of a disaster. My brother and I planted everything while Jim was ill. And it just kind of, it looked like the house when we had first bought it, that you needed to trim it all back. But so this summer has been a wonderful thing. But our enthusiasm for it is sort of what we're seeing is kind of affecting other people too now who had never thought of gardening or had thought about it but thought it was way too much, or they didn't know anything and couldn't do it anyway.
Right.
So neighbors have put in a vegetable garden too, and there's a young man that works in the municipal office. He's decided to work on his backyard.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of infectious. Actually.
I can imagine.
It is. And it gives you terrific things to talk about with other people.
Yeah.
I'm just fascinated by what captures people's imaginations who really want to garden and like gardening.
Yeah. And actually new to gardening, because I was talking to your neighbor yesterday and he was talking about his dinner and that he was going to go into his garden and cut some Egyptian onions for his dinner and how rewarding that was.
Yeah.
So.
And this is a person who, apparently doesn't like vegetables.
Oh, wow.
He has a nice big vegetable garden.
Nice.
I think he's going to learn to like vegetables.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's great.
So, what do you find most beneficial about gardening for yourself?
Well, I think for me is the tremendous satisfaction of, a garden is a big responsibility.
Yeah.
If you're going to take it on and you like gardening, you're taking on a big responsibility because the garden is dependent on you. Not completely, but it requires some attention.
Yeah.
So it gives you a chance to kind of engage and experiment and learn and share, share with each other, share with the plants. I just, there isn't a thing about gardening that I don't like.
Yeah.
Even having to take out the odd weed. I don't mind that.
Yeah. Because you see the outcome at the end. Yeah.
That's so nice.
And so share something interesting with our viewers that they can take away and maybe explore on their own or get them thinking a bit more about gardening.
Well, I guess what I would share is that just because you don't have necessarily a yard, and I feel incredibly privileged that we have the space we have.
Yeah.
It's exceptional for us. But if you don't have that space, it doesn't mean you can't garden.
Right.
A pot is all you need.
Yeah.
One pot or 10 pots or whatever. And a sunny window, a balcony, a small piece of yard, front, back. It doesn't have to even be a soil.
Right.
You don't have, if it's a paved driveway, get some pots, get some buckets.
Yeah. Plants
will grow if you help them and look after them. And we've ended up this year, we overplanted and had things we wanted to experiment with and had sort of used up our garden space. So we've gotten some buckets and put some drain holes in the bottom, put a bit of soil in and planted in that just to see what happens. And it also then, enlarged our garden capacity.
Right. So aside from just doing in-ground, you're doing some potted type of planting as well.
Yeah. And I would just say to people, think about what you like. If you're interested in gardening, is it the aspect of the eating of it, the beauty of the flowers, wanting to pick a few flowers, just wanting to rest your eyes on the flowers, whatever.
And how did you come across how do you create your garden type?
Well, I don't like formal gardens, and I've always been enchanted with what they call English gardens.
Yeah.
And not that it's England specifically, but there's this tendency for sort of huge combinations of all kinds of height and color and plants, and why have grass when you could have some flowers? And it's much more interesting.
Yes,
just as good or better for the environment.
Right.
So I'm sort of looking at moving out onto the boulevard.
Expand.
A few people, and the town seems to allow that. At least I've seen a number of boulevard gardens as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think that there's just life is too short to be always feeling like you can't do something.
Yeah.
And the one thing about a garden or a pot or a plant, indoor plant or outdoor plants, is that you always can do something.
Right.
You always have something you can be looking at or trying. And I'm particularly interested in herbs and the medicinal quality of herbs and the health side of herbs. So that's kind of where I'm trying to learn more and experiment a little more.
And what about it interests you?
Well, I like that it's right there, that it's ancient in its history.
Yeah.
That's what synthetic medications derive their base from.
Right.
Is mostly from, well, obviously from plants that they've either historically looked into or have been told or have seen for themselves the quality, the health quality. And then, it's led to my idea of foraging.
Yeah.
And, looking out there in the wild, what else can I find?
Right.
That's just, I don't know. It's just amazing.
It is amazing. Actually, I really love doing an herb garden myself. I've always had one. I thought maybe I would do one in my front window near my kitchen because I get a lot of west sun.
Yeah.
And I would kind of steal a little bit of your concept where you kind of make some shelves in your kitchen and put just a small little herb box and see if I can winter it over and keep it well.
Well, if you have a sunny window, I've seen a number of people who have actually, and I think even, this is a plug for IKEA, but they had little glass shelves.
Right.
Or you can get glass cut and then just put brackets and put instead of a blind on your window.
Right.
If you're looking at your neighbor.
Yeah.
Why not put a couple of shelves and then put some herbs there.
That's a great idea.
Plants,
making it useful.
Yeah.
Nice.
And you have the sun, which is the most important thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So what herb have you experimented or felt like you've gained something from it since you're into the herb medications?
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at lavender particularly. I love the blooms and I've always loved the flowers, but I started seeing recipes and things and people were putting lavender in their baking and I kept thinking, what? It sort of has that soapy smell to it. But properly used, and not overused, it's quite enchanting. So anyway,
interesting.
it's one of those plants that they say, oh, you can't grow it in Canada. It needs a softer climate and whatever, but it's growing.
Yeah, I think you've defied that myth for sure. Yeah. And so with the lavender, I mean, I use it more for like a botanical smell. I put it in my drawers and whatever. What else can you use lavender for?
You can well, I've been making, I watched this terrific thing called Forage, and it was an Anishinaabe chef who was out foraging in the 4 seasons.
Yeah.
And he was making what he called sun tea, which was something that Jim and I did years ago. We used to make sun vinegar and take it to market.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, oh, I'd forgotten all about that. And he just took a big glass jar, filled it with water, filled it with, I've tried it, and I've now added, I put mint. He took a peach and squashed a peach up.
Nice.
Put lemon, whatever, and then sit it in the sun for 3 or 4 hours and let the sun extract all the oils and flavors from the things that are in it.
Right.
And then chill it. It's amazing.
Oh, I had some last night. It
amazing.
Was refreshing after a hard day work. Yeah, it was really good
for that.
So, how would you use lavender in that? Would you?
I added lavender to
one. Oh, you
one.
did?
Yeah, the first one that I made, I thought, well, I mean, people are putting it in baking. Let's see what happens. So I just took a couple of pieces. And the jar is quite large. Yeah. So I just put a couple of pieces to see what would happen. And it was incredibly present in the flavor. I could taste it, but not be offended by it. But things like you can tie it in a knot and run hot water when you're running your bath over a knot of lavender or rosemary or any of those sort of herbs that are used for relaxation, and the oils exude out into the water. And
wow, that's incredible. So you use your garden for like a personal, sacred kind of well-being, all in all. Yeah, eating, body.
I don't grow things you don't like.
Yeah,
and it doesn't mean because someone else has them in their garden that you're offended. Yeah. It's just, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
And I only have so much space. So I'm going to plant what I want to be able to have and what I can use. And I'm into sort of the whole idea of seed saving and trying to be very careful and diligent about ensuring that I'm saving the seeds of plants that are not modified, GMO ones and things like that, but original heirloom plants or whatever you have that's organic, and trying to save the seeds, labeling everything, using them next year.
Yeah.
Instead of, the buying into, you always have to be consuming. What can you do so that it doesn't break the bank to have a nice garden?
So you've done it like full circle.
Yeah. I'm trying to. Yeah. I mean, there's still lots of room to learn and grow and try and fail and try again, or, not everything works.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that doesn't, that's the fun of it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned quickly that you were foraging or looking at foraging. Yeah. Why don't you touch on that? Because I'd like to talk about this in the next episode that we do.
Well, I took a course years ago at Riverdale Farm in Toronto.
Yeah.
And we walked around the farm and we foraged, and we came back and made lunch with what we had gathered, which was fun. Fabulous.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the first time I'd done it. But then I thought, no, actually, I probably have always foraged, because that there are wild berries out there that are edible and things like that. So, yes, I'm working on it now. We live by the Minnesotong, by the Maitland River.
Yeah.
And I've decided I'm going to see what I can forage and munch along the way and share with other people.
Right.
I think there's a great curiosity about what's growing out there that is truly edible.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
Identifying it, making sure you've got the real thing.
Yeah.
And then enjoying it.
It's a whole skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I've noticed a lot of people on YouTube too are doing more exploration, like videos, and then creating their foods from it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting that, if you know what you're looking for and are patient enough to go find it, you can make some really good stuff in your own backyard.
Yeah. And there are some really terrific guides to get started. And then once you get started and you know that there are certain basic characteristics to certain kinds of plants, then you can begin to identify. And of course, you know, the idea is that you might find something, but you never eat it till you make sure that you've got what you think you've got in front of you. And then look up how to use it and try it.
Well, that's pretty good. Yeah. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good. Great. And especially if you're a walker.
Yeah, we'd like to talk about that too, about just movement and exercise and how that all serves you a lot better.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I look forward to speaking to you soon, Megan. Thank you.
I look forward to talking to you again.
It was a great pleasure to do this episode, and I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Me too.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.